people. I'm saying that because I just saw Coach Haku. He's hiding somewhere. He's confirmed. But you didn't see him, so you don't know. All right, we are here at Firestorm. My name's Justin Taylor, and today we're going to be talking about our balance rail walk. All right, now you can balance walking down a curb. You can balance on a balance beam like gymnastics. All of these are great, but I promise you, nothing is going to get you as good of balance as balancing on a rail, a rounded object that is very skinny, that makes you focus on that balance and have good body position and good balance. So when we do this thing, couple things we want to keep in mind. Body position is important. You can walk across the rail all loosey-goosey, but it's going to be hard to recover. The better position your body is in to start, that set position, see, suddenly I look buff, now I'm lazy, right? Now I got a little belly, now up. Nice. We want a good set position before we start balancing. It's going to make our lives a lot easier. Number two is using our arms and legs as weight levers to help ourselves balance. We can do this by practicing on the ground. We're going to go over a little bit later. And last but not least is our foot position. We're going to go over the right foot positions, other ones that people can utilize but I don't recommend, and why each one is either superior or inferior to the other ones, and how they can help you or hinder you depending on what you're trying to do with that balance. All right, so let's break it down to our 60-second breakdown. Oh yeah, people. All right, so one of my favorite things to do, just for myself personally, is use a rail that is a little bit wobbly. If you have a very solid object, which I recommend starting with, and starting to low to the ground, that's great. We're gonna use a slightly more advanced one here because it's more fun. So when I do my balance, you guys ready for the 60 seconds? Nathan, do that magic thing. He did it, that was amazing. He didn't have to use hands. Truly, he is a wizard. All right, when we start on a balance rail, notice my foot is across here. Don't do that. Start with the leg closest to it. I want a nice straight forward foot. None of this sideways stuff, absolutely not. Foot straight forward, chest up, shoulders back, core tight. When I stand up here, it is harder to balance on 2 feet on the rail at the same time, so I step with 1 foot. Toe first, right between my big toe and my second toe. All right, then I'm gonna step. I keep slightly bent legs. It is easier for me to balance with bent legs than with straight legs. The lower my weight is down, the easier it is for me to control. The higher my weight is from my balance point, the harder it is. Notice when I do this, I'm gonna have my airplane arms. These big wings right here. They are gonna allow me to balance by tilting them up or down, and I can do the same thing with my leg right here. A heavier weight lower to the ground, giving me more access to balance. All right, last and not least, I'm gonna pick something out far, at least 6 to 8 feet in front of me that I'm looking at on the balance, or on the balance rail, the object I'm balancing on. The reason for that is I don't want to be looking down like this at my feet. This is not a strong position. I want here, chest up, shoulders back, core tight. I can look forward, but now when I'm moving, you can see there, it's just my head that's moving as I look, not my shoulders and my whole body. Chest up, arms out, big airplane arms, looking slightly down, about 6 to 8 feet in front of me. Toes only the entire way, using the arms and the legs for balance as I step, stepping onto my toes, big toe and second toe, not in the center. That's a trick, don't do it. All right, let's get down to a little bit more details here. Most people, when they get on a rail, they like to be sideways like this. I get it, your foot has a curve right there in the center, right? So it makes sense that you put this rounded object right there in the center, okay? I get it. First off, then you're gonna be shuffling sideways. Woo! Not gonna be very good for your balance. But here's the big kicker. When I balance, if I'm gonna stand right here on the edge so you guys can see. As I balance with my feet, if I lean forward, what do? I push my toes in the ground to push myself back, right? If I lean backwards, I push my heels down and lean forward. We balance primarily forward and backward, toes and heels. If I'm standing right here, like this, and I suddenly push down with my toes, whoop, I'm gonna slip. Blah! I'm gonna be talking like Mickey Mouse for weeks. It's gonna be no good. Oh, so painful. All right, and if I go backwards like this, my foot can slip. I'm gonna drop straight down and either hit my stomach, my ribs, oh goodness, my chin, my face. Oh, that'd probably be an improvement. But the point is, you can't balance like that very well. What you can do though, and I really encourage you when you start learning your balance, do it barefoot or use shoes like these Feiways. There's a million ways to pronounce them. It's technically Chinese. I don't know how to say it, but I'm sure everybody out there has like a different way to say it. So please don't crucify me too much if I'm saying it incorrectly. The reason I recommend these ones is check these shoes out. Unlike a normal shoe, these things will contour to whatever I put in them, like the rail, just like if I were barefoot. So it's really important to make sure that we don't have something with a super solid sole of the shoe, because if you do, then your foot is balancing on basically a plank of wood on top of a rounded object. Now you're balancing twice as much. That's way harder and difficult to do. So when I start right here, the reason I want my foot forward and between my big toe and my second toe right here is my foot can then curve like this around the top of the rail. All right, now I can lean forward, push on my toe, I can go back a little on my heel, and I can use my pinky and my big toe side to side so I can balance on all 4 directions. Very, very helpful. What I don't want to see and starts to become common is people turning their feet sideways like this. Same thing, it's going to slip, you're going to go down, you're going to nut yourself, you're going to have a really bad day. Probably a bad few days because that's really going to hurt. But if you do it, as always, send me a video because those are my favorite ones because I'm a horrible human being. All right, when we start, a lot of people find something with your back to go against, something like this. So I can start here in a good position. I'm not jumping up to my balance point, or start on a very low rail on the ground to keep yourself nice and safe in the beginning. As I go, I'm going to push my chest up, a nice solid straight position with my shoulders as wide as possible and pulled back. I'm going to stick my arms out straight into what's called my airplane position. I want to keep these arms as straight as possible. Just like if you've ever seen the people that do the high wire balance, they have a big giant pole, right? It's like 20 feet long. It's because the further away from you these objects are, the more it feels like they weigh. The more it feels like they weigh, because of that angle and that distance right there, the more power it has to tip you forward and backwards. My fingers do not weigh very much, but by being this far away from my body, I can utilize them to keep my balance no matter where I shift myself around. Yeah, da, 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 da. But you can see I can pull myself back from very far by moving those arms. That's gonna take practice though. You're not just gonna get on the thing and know where to move your arms. I don't think about where I move my arms anymore. It's all very instinctual. My body just knows what to do because I've stood on rails, just stood there and let my arms kind of move around until they figure it out. It's gonna take time, don't worry about that. Now as I go, it's important to keep my legs bent. If my legs are straight, I have very little points in which I can then maneuver myself to balance. I can do a little bit with my ankle, but not much if my legs are straight. I can only bend at the waist. And if I bend at the waist, and my weight now goes way in front of me, this is very difficult to balance. So what I want to be doing is bending my legs a little bit. If I have bent legs here, I can shift my hips, my knees, my ankles. I can move myself in all directions. If I'm here, it's much more difficult and a lot more strenuous and takes a lot more energy. It's harder to balance. So keep those legs bent just a little bit with your chest up, big airplane arms, feet facing forward the entire time. Now let's talk about where we're looking. We talked about basically 6 to 8 feet in front of me. Here's the reason for that. And you can do a little test. Stand on the ground. You can just use flat ground. Stand on one foot. Confirm those two. I love how every time we do this, everyone just like, freezes or hides or something. Hey, Summer, I heard you're gonna come a rap for the exit. We're not T-Rexes. If you're quiet and you don't move, we can still see you, I promise.
Hey, Justin, T-Rexes do push-ups?
They try, but it doesn't work.
What's going on? Why aren't you seizing the boy?
Why aren't you seizing the children? Because I got tiny arms and a big head. Never. So, here's a little thing you can do. Stand on one foot, okay? Nice and easy for your balance. You can use your arms or not, okay? Look at something roughly head height, or in this case, we're gonna look down about 8 feet. So I'm looking at Nathan's feet, right over there, okay? My chest and chin is still up for the most part. I'm gonna do the same thing right here, and I'm gonna look kind of over there. I'm looking over there, it's giving me something to balance on. You notice I'm not like looking down to see my feet. Okay, I'm right here, my chest is up. But now, start to lift your chin up. Start to look over to the side. Start to look anywhere else, and you can see my balance immediately starts to go. So I wanna pick something along the path that I'm walking, far enough out that it's not affecting my body position, but close enough that I'm not looking like a mile out, so when I step, I might miss the object that I'm stepping on. Which again, is why we step toes first. All right, guys, if I'm walking down this thing and I step heel first and my heel's a little off, and I start to put weight, whoop, and there goes my crotch again. no good. But if I come down toes first, because I'm just setting the toes down, I feel that my toes are where they're supposed to be, and I can begin setting my weight down. All right. Also, if I step with my toes I'm a little off, I can shift the rest of my foot however I need to re-catch myself on that rail. If I come down with that heel though, that's just one big round nub. There's no real shifting that to where I need to be. All right. Last thing like we talked about, keep the eyes forward, chest up, 6 to 8 feet out. Make sure you're staring directly in front of that direction. Don't look around. You will start to lose your balance. You will fall, and I will laugh at you. Nobody will appreciate that. All right, guys, we've gone over basically how to walk forward, our foot placement, our chest up for body placement, how to use our arms and legs to balance ourselves. Remember, you have to practice that one a lot because it's not so much a, I should do this, it's a reaction that your body does to keep your balance. We've also talked about where you're looking, your chin position, all of these things, and how your foot should be placed. Now, when you're working on this, starting very low to the ground, because you are gonna fall, so you don't wanna start really high up. As you get a little more advanced, this becomes very easy for you walking along. There are some slightly more advanced things you can work on that are really going to help with your balance. So number one is our backwards walk. Now I still want to look in front of me, pick something to stare at that's not going to move to help keep me my balance. Everything else is the same. I'm stepping back, placing that foot. I love this wobbly rail. It makes everything so much more intense. But I'm feeling with my toe first. There's the rail. I go back and I plant between my big toe and my second toe, go back to the pad of my foot, and then I can sit my heel down and walk myself backwards. Another really fun one you guys can do, woohoo, once I keep my balance, is what's called a pivot turn. Pivot turns are really cool and they look a little like this. I go right here, one foot in front of the other. I'm actually gonna push up onto my toes. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna spin right there. A lot of times when you get to the end, you're gonna have a little bit of messed up balance. So you're gonna have to stick a leg out or an arm out to keep your balance. But basically, again, I'm gonna do it the other direction. One foot behind, I'm going up to my toes, spinning myself around and turning myself. It's important that your chest is up when you do this, all right? If I tried to do this, and I stick the butt or the chest out, you saw that I barely stuck my chest out 2 or 3 inches, the whole thing starts to fall. We have to stay centered. It's like there's a stick going up to the top of my body, and I'm just pivoting around and plunking myself back down. That one can be very difficult. And remember, when you start to lose your balance, whether it's a forward walk, a backwards walk, whatever, all right, when I start to lose my balance, the lower I go on the rail, the easier it's gonna be to keep my balance. So squatting down like this is gonna help you keep that balance. One thing you can do, because pivot turns are very difficult in the beginning, is stay low and pivot turn myself in that squat, all right? That'll help keep your balance a little easier. You can practice the pivot turn, walking forward, walking backwards. If you wanna hate your life, you can try to do side to sides. Don't really recommend them. There's not too much that you can do that'll be very helpful. Make sure you tune back in next week because we're gonna continue with our rails and bar stuff. We're gonna be going precision jumps, jumping to bars, our swing techniques, learning how to do real swings. None of that stuff I see in almost every single tutorial where it's arch hollow, no regrip. Please don't do that kind of stuff. We're gonna go over how to do it with proper gymnastics technique so you're safe and you can drive a large amount of power. All right, I love your beautiful faces. I hope to see some comments, some information, some of the thumbs up liking stuff. Maybe you didn't appreciate that last comment I made about other YouTubers and then I get like a thumbs down. Whatever, just click a button, like, comment, subscribe. She's over there dying. Maybe you got a rap for us this time? Nope. Give me something. You're fired. Give me something, girl. You're fired. You heard her. I'm on fire. Nice. Self-fire. No, keep singing. I'm ready to dance.
No. Just dance without music.
I can't dance without music.